Hey everybody, what's up? Just sort of a cold early winter day here in Missouri, and anytime you get that, it gets me thinking, gets me all ready for jerkbait season, which is getting pretty close to upon us here in the Ozarks. So I'm gonna probably be doing a lot of different tips and sort of some informative videos on jerkbait fishing moving forward over the next couple months. There's so much to talk about jerkbait fishing. Simply because you've got so many different profiles, variations, so many different applications for different types of jerkbaits based upon the variables of the lake you're fishing, the type of water, the species in the lake, the water clarity, the water depth, just in how the banks are set up on your lake. There's just a lot of different things that go into being able to choose the correct proper jerkbait. And the topic for today is I want to talk about is why the Vision 110 is not my favorite Megabass jerkbait. And this is probably, a lot of people surprised by that, because that's usually everybody's, favorite jerkbait. A lot of people have been going to the 110+1 in recent years, just to get that added depth a little bit. And a lot of that is simply because they can fish it on heavier line, because you can actually get the 110 down to the same depths as the 110+1 by downsizing your line, but a lot of people prefer to stay with heavier line. But the reason I want to talk about here why the Vision 110 is not my favorite Megabass jerkbait, and I'll tell you which bait is my favorite Megabass jerkbait, is because the Vision 110, its popularity is the reason that it's not one of my favorite jerkbaits. And it's still, probably the #1 jerkbait in the country. There's probably more bass that are caught on a Megabass Vision 110 than any jerkbait in the country by far, and will continue to remain that way moving forward. But it's not my first choice under the situation. And like I said, that is because it gets fished so much. The fish seem to get conditioned to it more. They get conditioned to not only the action of bait, but more importantly, the sound of the bait. Because the balancers within a Megabass Vision 110 are they're really unique. It's a unique sound, and in my opinion, the fish can really get they can get keyed into that sound of the balancers, the way they sound moving through the water. And if you have a lake that, like Table Rock Lake here in Missouri, that gets a tremendous amount of jerkbait fishing pressure, I really feel the bass get wary to that, and they get wise to that. And you simply don't catch the fish on it like you used to. But what has become my replacement for the Vision 110, which is the same thing, is the 110 Silent. Now, this is the exact same bait as the Vision 110, exactly the same. Profile's the same, lip is the same on it. There's no difference in anything. Color options are still the same. The only difference in this particular bait is the 110 Silent has a fixed balancer system in it. And that fixed balancer system makes it silent. And the fact that this bait is silent, to me, particularly in the wintertime when you're dealing with clear water, is because it doesn't telegraph itself. And I really feel that is critical on heavily pressured waters, particularly in clear water situations, is to not have a bait telegraph itself. And I've been working with Megabass since 1992. I helped design the 110 over 20 years ago. And, I had been, talking to him a long time about, we needed a silent jerkbait. And, the Silent model here is the one that I use more than anything else in the winter time of the year. Because what you have is, you still have noise here. The hook's clanging on the bait. It's still a subtle sound. It's not near as much of a sound as the balancer's moving back and forth with it. So the thing that you'll find about this is you have a lot fewer bass short striking the bait, and you have a lot fewer bass tracking the bait and not biting it. Because if you all fish jerkbaits very much like I do, you know that if you go to a lake that hasn't had a lot of fishing pressure, you can put the Vision 110 on and just catch them all day long and they'll eat it. The more fishing pressure you goes, the more you notice the bass are getting hooked by like the back hooks on it. And then you start noticing the fish following the bait and swimming off at the last minute when you pull the bait out of the water. And that's one of the reasons the silent model is, you know, absolutely my favorite wintertime clearwater jerkbait, you know, by far. Now, that being said, there are still times when I do want the Vision 110, the regular model. And the times that I want that are if I've got a situation where I'm in a body of water that maybe hasn't got a lot of fishing pressure, or maybe you got a real dark day. It's the water's maybe just not it's clean, but it's not super clear, but you've got heavy clouds, it's dark, it's windy. That's when sometimes when I want that noise from the 110, you know, the balancer system's making the noise that it does. So it's not that I don't ever fish it. I do, but those are situations that are rare. Most of the time in the winter time of the year, we don't have those situations. You got something in between. You partly cloudy conditions, 5 to 10 mile an hour winds, that type of a situation. And that's when I'll go to the silent model all the time. Couple different things, you know, to remember on this as far as the silent models go is in the winter time when the fish start to get a little bit more lethargic and the water temperatures start to drop below 50 degrees, it's really critical to, you know, change your cadence a little bit. And I don't really want to go into a lot of different cadence stuff in here because we'll do some of that in future videos. But one of the things I want to really leave you with this, the 110 silent, is get into the habit of pulling your bait under the water instead of jerking it. It's like when you know, the times that you jerk your bait and pause it, you sort of need to get out of that mentality a little bit. And once you get your bait down, you know, to its deepest point, instead of doing those jerk pauses, do the more just like the pulling, just like that, and pausing. Reel it up, pull it, and pause it. You know, that bait just sort of goes to the water just straight like that. And in cold water, I can promise you that you're going to get a lot more bites, especially if you're in a situation that that water temperature is down like the mid 40s, something like that. And if you have a lot of bass in a lake, that a lot of the bass population lake is a mix of spotted bass and largemouth. So anyway, that's just a sort of a quick deal here. Vision 110 Megabass, most popular jerkbait in the world, is not my favorite jerkbait most of the time. It's the Vision 110 Silent is my favorite jerkbait. It's the one that I have tied on most of the time. It's a little tip probably I shouldn't give away, but I'll give it away because, you know, jerkbait fishing is all about knowing what jerkbait to throw under certain conditions. And I'll do a bunch of these videos on here because I've always said, you know, jerkbait fishing is the most difficult technique in the world. I literally got a dozen different profiles and sizes of jerkbaits, tons of different colors, and the secret and the key on jerkbait fishing is knowing when to go to which profile, which color, combining it with the action that you have at the right time. So that's the big secret and the key in jerkbait fishing, and I'm going to share some of those tips with you a little bit moving forward. So anyway, hope you guys are doing good, and we'll talk to you all later on. See ya.